Hello everyone, welcome back to DDB 101. In this video, we're gonna keep exploring how the VS Code looks like when you're using DDB with VS Code. Now let's jump right in. So again, this is this is the exactly same dummy project we saw last time. So in this project, we're gonna have one server and one client talks to the server. Okay, so let's first start DDB. Okay, you can see DDB is already started. Then let me first start the server. Here, server is already attached. Now let me first click continue so that the server can start running first. Then later on, whenever we attach the client, the server can correctly pick up the connection. Let me first click continue. Now you can see the server is running correctly. So if we look at this panel, you can see there are many threads for the server. Now let me jump into a different terminal, which I gonna start the client from this terminal. So let me start the client. So you can see all the stuff are paused because as I mentioned from last session, from last video, that DDB has a behavior called pause on attach. So whenever DDB saw a new attachment from a different or from a new process, gonna pause the all out execution for whatever process it's currently attached to. So you're gonna pause everything. So you can see all these threads here all belong to this group. We're gonna touch upon the concept of group later. But right now you can see all these things belong to the work comp server. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see there's a new one called WC underscore client, which essentially is the one we're just starting. Now, before we actually continue this client, let me actually set some breakpoint. So I know this client gonna call the server, and the server gonna use this RPC handler to do some computation and return to the client. Let me try to insert some breakpoint. For example, again, on line 53. Now, breakpoint is correctly installed. Here, let me keep running all the process so that the client can correctly or successfully send RPC to a server, and server gonna invoke this RPC handler so we can see the effect of breakpoint hit. And the one thing to mention is that whenever you click on this continue button, it means to continue all the process, all the threads which are captured by the DDB. So let's continue all the process. Here, whenever you saw such highlight, meaning the DDB hit a breakpoint. So there's some visual clue here. For example, there's a line saying executing by session 1, thread 42. It indicates which thread is actually running this line. So if you go back to this call stack, and let me actually expand a little bit. So you can see this thread here has session ID 1 and DDB thread ID equal to 42, means this thread is actually running this line. You can also have one additional visual clue here. It says paused on breakpoints, meaning this thread is actually paused on breakpoints. So let me also go over the variable panel. Let me first close this watch panel. So here you can view all the local variable. Of course, you can also expand the register to view all the register. Let me first focus on the local variables. Here you can see this variable, context, request, and reply. Here right now, the newly added variable is just some garbage value because this line still not run yet. Let me try to run this line by using the step over feature. So let's click this button, which is step over, which essentially executing the current line and jump to the next line. Here, we already finished this line. One thing you have noticed that is this variable is already updated. So you can see the update value right here. And also you can see the visual clue says this line is currently executed on session 1 thread 42. So this line moved. And right now, if we click step over again, this line will be executed. Now, we can see there's another variable called this points to the word count sum. Of course, you can do the hover over. You can see also there's value says 0, which means this value currently is 0. There's a different approach to watch this value is used watch panel. So if we click on this watch panel, and we can use this add button to type the expression into this panel, for example, like this. Enter. So you can see the watch panel currently says 0 for this variable. Now, let me try to step over to execute this line so you can see the update for this word count sum. Here, in the watch panel, you can see the value is updated because we just add 2 to this value. So this is how it works when you perform the stepping over in DDB. And similarly, you can use the step in and step out feature to step into a particular function or step out of a particular function. Now, you may notice that all this information are squeezed into this panel, and they can sometimes look a little bit messy. So one way I personally prefer is use a different panel from VS Code. We can open this secondary sidebar. So here, I can actually drag and drop all the panel to this view. So oftentimes, my preference is drag the call stack here and also the DDB session and DDB breakpoints here. Let me actually rearrange the breakpoint to the bottom. So here you can have like 2 side panels showing all this information, and also at the same time you can have a view to editor. Now you can stop all the DDB session by click this button. And that's it for today's video. See you guys next time.